Ever wondered how hackers can trick users into visiting malicious websites? Ever heard of unvalidated redirects and forwards? Well, today, we're diving deep into this common yet often overlooked vulnerability found in many web applications. Unvalidated redirects and forwards, as their name suggests, are instances where an application's redirection function does not verify or authenticate the destination. This loophole can be exploited by cybercriminals to misdirect users, often unknowingly, to harmful sites, phishing pages, or even to download malware. This phenomenon is not just a fancy term in the world of ethical hacking, but a significant concern in the broader field of cybersecurity. With the rise of sophisticated hacking techniques, understanding these vulnerabilities has become imperative for both developers and users. So buckle up, because in the next few minutes, you'll gain an understanding of what unvalidated redirects and forwards are and why they're a significant concern in the field of cybersecurity. So, what exactly are unvalidated redirects and forwards? Let's delve deeper. In the world of web applications, redirects and forwards are common mechanisms used to guide your journey across the internet. Think of them as the traffic controllers of the digital world, directing your browser from one location to another. A redirect typically occurs when a web application sends an HTTP response to your browser, instructing it to fetch a different URL. This could be for various reasons, such as moving you to a different part of the website or even sending you to a completely different site altogether. A forward, on the other hand, is a bit more subtle. Instead of instructing your browser to go elsewhere, a forward works server-side, directing the application itself to a different resource within the same domain. It's a bit like a backstage pass, letting you seamlessly move from one part of the show to another without having to leave the building. Now, these mechanisms in themselves aren't harmful. In fact, they're essential for creating a smooth user experience. But here's the catch. When these redirects and forwards aren't properly validated, they can pose a significant security risk. Imagine if the traffic controller was asleep at the wheel, allowing anyone to change the traffic signs. Chaos would ensue, wouldn't it? The same thing applies to unvalidated redirects and forwards. If they're not properly checked, they can be manipulated by attackers to misdirect users to malicious sites. This is where the term unvalidated comes in. There are different types of unvalidated redirects and forwards. HTTP redirects, for example, can be manipulated through parameters in the URL. JavaScript redirects, on the other hand, use JavaScript code to carry out the redirection. Both types can be exploited if not properly validated, providing a potential gateway for phishing attacks, session stealing, and other cyber threats. Now that you know how unvalidated redirects and forwards work, let's look at how they can be exploited. Cybercriminals are always looking for vulnerabilities to exploit, and unvalidated redirects and forwards present a golden opportunity. But how, you might ask? Let's delve into it. Unvalidated redirects and forwards are essentially controls that allow an application to direct the user's browser to an alternate page or site. When these controls are not properly validated, attackers can manipulate them, creating a perilous situation. Let's break this down. Imagine you're visiting a website and you click on a link. This link is supposed to take you to another page within the site, but instead it redirects you to a completely different site. This is an example of an unvalidated redirect, and it's a prime playground for cybercriminals. Cybercriminals can use this technique to create phishing attacks. They might manipulate a URL to redirect users to a malicious site that looks identical to the original one. Unsuspecting users might then enter their personal information, thinking they're on a trusted site, when in fact, they're handing their details straight to the attacker. Unvalidated forwards, on the other hand, can lead to session theft or forceful browsing. Session theft, or session sidejacking, occurs when an attacker hijacks a user's session, gaining unauthorized access to their account. Forceful browsing, also known as forced browsing, is when an attacker tricks the application into revealing sensitive information or functionality that it shouldn't. Let's take an example. Suppose you're on a shopping site and you click on a link to view your shopping cart. An attacker could manipulate this link to forward you to a page that reveals your credit card details or other sensitive information. This is a typical case of forceful browsing, and it's another way that cybercriminals can exploit unvalidated forwards. As you can see, unvalidated redirects and forwards can have serious consequences. But don't worry, there are ways to mitigate these risks. Prevention is always better than cure, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. So how can we prevent unvalidated redirects and forwards? It's a three-pronged approach: input validation, using a safe list, and limiting the use of redirects and forwards. First, let's talk about input validation. It's a technique that checks the data provided by a user before it's processed. By validating the URL parameters, you can ensure that only expected values are accepted, thus preventing an attacker from injecting malicious redirects. Next, the use of a safe list, or an allow list, provides another layer of protection. With this approach, you're essentially creating a list of approved URLs for redirection. This means that even if an attacker tries to redirect to a malicious site, the redirect will fail if the URL is not on the safe list. Finally, it's a good practice to limit the use of redirects and forwards wherever possible. While they can be convenient, they also open up potential avenues for attacks. So always question whether a redirect or forward is absolutely necessary. If it's not, consider finding an alternative solution. Remember, the goal here is to make your web application as secure as possible. By validating inputs, using a safe list, and limiting the use of redirects and forwards, you're taking significant steps towards achieving this goal. By following these best practices, you can significantly reduce the risk of unvalidated redirects and forwards in your web applications. We've covered a lot of ground today. Let's quickly summarize what we've learned. We started with unvalidated redirects and forwards, delving into the mechanics of how they operate. We explored how these can be exploited, turning innocent-looking URLs into gateways for malicious activities. Finally, we discussed preventative measures, from strict validation to avoiding redirects and forwards when possible. Remember, understanding these vulnerabilities and knowing how to prevent them is a crucial step in securing your web applications. Stay safe out there.